People who used to not believe in ghosts but do now. What experience changed your mind? Worked at a public pool. I would work alone after hours cleaning the building and the pool. One night around 2 a.m. I'm cleaning the change rooms. The pool has been closed for 4 hours at this time. I hear the sound of a child's laughter and bare feet running across the pool deck. I go out and scan the area. There's nobody in sight. The doors are all closed and locked. There is nowhere a kid could be hiding. No wet footprints on the pool deck. I recheck the doors and the security monitors. I am the only person in the building. It was unsettling. For some reason this is the spookiest one to me. Paranormal little kids are always the scariest. There's something so incredibly unnerving about an innocent child doing the creepiest possible. Cause they're supposed to be small and weak, so if we see them do some crazy like throw a grown man or something, it's scary. It doesn't even have to be creepy per se, anything they do to suggest they're a kid is scary AF. Ball rolls gently down the hallway? Nope. Giggle/laughing? No thanks. Crying? Just gonna note out of there. I've written about this before, but once while falling asleep after a movie with the family I was awoken by what seemed like a small boy running towards the couch we were in. I immediately sat up and braced for impact. Now, I would normally chalk it up to falling asleep by my mom, and dad also bolted awake at the same time. Before I could explain, my dad told me he saw a boy running towards us. His description of the boy matched mine, while my mother confirmed as well. I grew up in a very scientific family. I never knew my dad's stance on ghosts, but they were never talked about, so it really didn't matter. One day when I was in high school we were eating dinner, and I decided to ask my dad about our old house, and moving into it when I was just a baby. So he told me a story. Apparently when we moved into this house we lived there about a week before we started to receive gifts once a week. Every Friday morning, my dad told me that there would be some sort of handcrafted gift sitting on the mantle of our fireplace. My dad was reasonably freaked out by this because we were the only ones with keys to the house, and the last owner moved well out of state. So, he informed the local police, and they decided to patrol the property every Friday night looking for intruders. They found nothing, and as you could imagine the gifts kept coming. So my dad told me they eventually gave up, and feeling helpless he went to our local church. Eventually he had a priest come and bless the house, and we stopped receiving the gifts. What really freaked me out about this was the fact that my dad never believed in ghosts, and didn't mention once that a ghost was causing these gifts to appear. He's an engineer, so he always tries to debunk people's paranormal stories with a realistic explanation, but he was 100% serious with this story. One of the gifts we received we actually still have. It's a wooden sled with a small painting of a man, presumably my dad, pulling me and my sister on the sled. We received this gift about 8 months a year before my mother passed away from cancer, so that made the painting on the sled very freaky in hindsight. My dad only told me this story once, and he denied he ever told me it when I asked him about it recently. If I can find the sled I'll post a picture. It's very small and looks quite old. That's very interesting. An actual tangible object from the unknown? And then to have it do labor plus the painting. Pretty cool, but I bet it was pretty freaky to be the one to receive such a thing. When I was about 10 to 14 I had terrible insomnia. I would imagine things and felt incredibly unsafe, as though I was being watched, although I never admitted this to anyone. I began only sleeping on the couch, with my back against the wall, and had to have the TV or some sort of light on. I missed an immense amount of school because of this, so my mom had me see a neurologist. The neurologist diagnosed me with some things, but the crazy part was during my sleep study I slept amazingly well, no issues at all, and slept in the real bed. Eventually I got transferred to a children's hospital, and speaking to the doctor I explained I would see things and felt uncomfortable. They had thought I was experiencing sleep paralysis. When they told my mom, she went ghost white. She pulled me aside and explained she was experiencing things, too. She described in detail what I was seeing. That evening she approached my brother and asked broad questions. Do you have anything weird happen in home? Etc. He also described what we experienced. It was then I realized we must have paranormal activity, and I've believed it ever since. When we moved out of that house all my sleep issues abruptly stopped, and I haven't experienced it since. My wife and I swear that our daughter used to talk to ghosts when she was a toddler. She was an only child at the time. First instance I remember was her telling me that she was talking to Nana. That's what I called my grandmother. who passed about 15 years before my daughter was born. My daughter was young and so I hadn't even talked about Nana to her, so I showed her a picture and asked who she spoke to. There were 4 women, 3 of which I didn't even know, but without hesitation she pointed to my Nana. Okay, no biggie. Some months later, my wife and I are trying for baby number 2. After my wife gets pregnant, my daughter is sitting next to her on the couch and puts her head on her belly and says, "Mommy, there's a baby in there." Okay, maybe that's coincidence. She overheard us saying something. A few weeks later, my wife miscarries. Maybe my daughter picked up on our sadness, who knows, but she again puts her head on her stomach and says, "Mommy, there's no baby in there anymore." Then, several months and one more, very early, miscarriage later, my daughter tells us, "I was talking to my brother last night and he said that my sister is coming to live with me soon." Again, she's an only child and had no living brother. We were still trying at this point, but had not taken any tests. We picked one up that night, and sure enough, pregnant. When time came to reveal the gender, I wasn't even interested. My daughter had already said it was a girl. Sure enough, I have 2 daughters.